park, wherever you are. Super simple, nothing crazy. As you can see, I'm surrounded by all my favorite objects. There's lots of different ways to draw your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So I'm going to start really, this is just a blank white sheet of paper. And I'm going to show you the tools that we have here. So first off, we're going to be drawing what I call my underdrawing with a blue Prismacolor Colorase pencil. And really back in the day, before we had Photoshop and things like that, we would do this as our underdrawing. And then we would draw our pencil on top of this. And then the blue line didn't show up when we photocopied it. But nowadays with Photoshop, you don't have to do that. You drop out the blue line. But we're going to keep this old school. And then I'm going to be drawing on top of my underdrawing with just a black HB pencil. And you can do this with a mechanical pencil, really anything. And then we also have a 6B pencil. So I'll do kind of the hard outlines around that. So once you have this, and you don't even need these kind of pencils, you can literally be drawing with anything. It can be a pen, it can be whatever you have. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to do this just an underdrawing. So the very first step, and I'm going to take this step by step so you can take your time. And if I'm going too fast, I apologize. But really, the first thing I do is just a circle. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is our underdrawing. And so and you can do this when you're drawing, frankly, anybody. If you're drawing, man, woman, whatever. Whenever I draw creatures, alien stuff, really, that's what I do. Is I always start off with a circle. And from there, if I'm drawing a face, which is what I'm going to be doing today with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's great because he doesn't have a nose or a mouth or any of that business to deal with. So you just get to jump right into the fun stuff, drawing the big eyes and drawing the webs and all that. But whenever I draw a face, I do a center line just to kind of divide the face up. But in this case, we're going to be drawing Spider-Man looking at a 3/4 view. So he's going to be looking slightly off to my right, Spidey's left. So this center line is going to go just like that. So you can imagine this is a ball, right? Okay. Now the next thing I do is I draw his chin. And when you're drawing a lot of times superheroes, they got the big superhero chin. And I apologize if we missed the beginning of this, guys. But I hope everybody's caught up now. All right, cool. This is live, guys, live entertainment. So, but with Spider-Man, I like to draw him a little bit thinner, a little more wiry. So I'll draw his chin. I like kind of that youthful Spidey. So if you're drawing Captain America or Hulk, then you'll draw those kind of the big burly superhero type chins. Okay, then I'll take that center line. I'll go all the way down to the middle of that chin. Okay. Everybody caught up? Okay, cool. So the next thing I'll do is I'll do a cross line across about the middle of his face. That becomes his eye line. Now Spider-Man's easy because you don't have to draw the eyes and everything, but I like to know where the eyes are because when I'm drawing those big lenses. And again, there's lots of different ways to draw Spider-Man. As you can see around me, I've got different ways that artists have drawn him over the years. We've got, from Marvel Knights, kind of really angular, cool looking Spider-Man, a little more aggressive than the classic. My personal favorite, Todd McFarlane with the big eyes. And you go back and look at like the way Steve Ditko drew it, and it's, much smaller. And so I like to do kind of somewhere in between. But I do like to know where those eyes are. So I just kind of make a mark to know about where Peter Parker's eyes would be. Okay. And then I'm going to draw kind of these like iron type shapes. You see that? Cool. All right. You got your beginnings of Spider-Man. You can already tell it's starting to look like Spidey. And of course, it always helps to make cool sound effects when you do this. It's a lot of times, normally I have music going and all that stuff, but I like to do, have the Spider-Man music going to inspire me. Now the next thing I'm going to draw is his neck. Now, again, if I'm drawing superheroes, like I told you with Captain America and Hulk and whatnot, I do the big thick neck. In the case of Spidey, I make him a little thinner. So I like to kind of curve in with the back of that neck, and then just under shape. Give those nice big bug lenses. Like that. Fun stuff. Come up to a little point in the center and at the top. Again, there's so many different ways to do this. This is just the way I do it. In fact, I've heard, when you're trying to find what your style is, I heard, Scotty Young, who's a really famous artist. I love his work, love his style. He actually said he found his style just by drawing. So the more you do this kind of thing, just draw over and over, the more you're going to find the way you draw and how you make it your own. So I'm teaching you, again, these are some early tricks to help you get started. And then you can find your own way that works best for you. So I commit to these lines a little bit more. And again, we're going to come back to this with a hard pencil. All right, now it's time for the web. So that's where your center line comes in really handy, right? So we divided the face in half, and now we're going to take the middle point where the center line meets the eye line, and I'm going to draw those web lines coming off of that center. Or thwip is probably a better sound effect. Those of you in the know, right? So he's almost got that all radiating from that center point. And then I continue those lines down his neck. So just kind of, they wrap around his head, wrap around the chin. Imagine they come under the chin and then go down. The webs is all fun. Okay. How's everybody doing? You guys looking good? I'm going to assume that's a big yes. All right. So the next thing I do is where that eye line is, I'll draw Peter's ear. Now, I know it looks a little funny now because we don't normally see Spider-Man's ear, but I like to really sell the idea that it's a mask. So the mask is actually going to slightly go over that ear. Really helps convey that there's a person underneath there, which really that's a hallmark for any great Marvel story, Marvel characters, that you get to know the person underneath the mask. It's not about Spider-Man per se. It's about Peter Parker. Okay? Cool. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some more of that webbing, right? So now this is important. This is every time I teach this, I really stress this because it really can mess up your Spider-Man if you don't do it the right way. So I'm going to make these loops. If you look at the way Todd did this, and Todd drew a lot more webs on his Spider-Man than I'm doing here. But all these kind of loops, these arcs, all point towards that center, kind of in between his eyes. So what I mean by that is I'm going to go like this. The arcs, the loops, go towards the center, like that. And then just wrap all the way around. Now, if you don't go towards the center, essentially what you end up with is kind of a flower face man. Now, flower face man, I'm sure, would be a fine Marvel character. I'm sure someday we'll do a movie or a comic book about a flower face man. But for now, we're going to stick to the good old Spidey here. So I'm going to have fun just putting some of these. Again, see how sketchy I'm doing this? This is not the final drawing. You know, once I really get comfortable with where I'm at and I like what I'm doing, then I'll go in with the darker pencil. And eventually, you know, when you're doing a comic book, then this would go on to an inker. You know, and you know, back in the day, we do it with actual ink. You know, some guys still do. Some people, a lot of people ink digitally now. And I continue those webs, by the way, all the way down the back. But again, it's all those loops are all pointing towards the center line. This is super loose, just having fun. All right, so we got a pretty good looking Spider-Man right there. So now I'm gonna ditch the color race, Prismacolor, blue pencil. I'm gonna go right for the HB, okay? So again, you can do this with a mechanical pencil, whatever you have laying around the house. And I'm gonna start to commit to these lines. This is where the drawing starts to come together. All right, a little bit of a chin there. I'm not going to draw the ear, right? That's just part of my underdrawing, so I know where it is. Let's commit to those eyes. I think those look cool, nice and big and buggy. And Spider-Man's really, he's one of the most fun characters to draw. You can really kind of do anything. Once you get into drawing his anatomy, his body, you know, he's so wiry, and you can really put him in any position you want, and just have fun pushing anatomy, things like that. Okay, so look at those lenses. Lenses look pretty good. So I'll color them in black, them in with your pencil. And then I like to leave a little highlight over here, like right about there. You know, kind of conveys that there's a little bit of reflection happening. So maybe it's a different material than, say, the rest of his mask. And I'm not going to go crazy with the shading here, but you can see doing this eye, little reflection. So it's starting to come together. How we doing? Everybody doing okay? Am I going too fast? I'm going to assume you said no. So we're going to move on. Okay, so we can continue to commit to that head shape. Now, again, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're, you know, heads are smaller. I think you can, that's kind of a weird thing to say, but sometimes heads are smaller. Right now, I like kind of the bigger head, almost like that Ultimate Spider-Man kind of look. If you know, anytime you pick up a Marvel comic, there's a shameless plug. Pick up a Marvel comic, a Spider-Man comic, and look at the way the artists all drawn. You know, everybody draws them a little bit differently. And that's part of the fun. That's one of the great things about comics, I think, is that every week you can see a new artist's take on your favorite characters. It always is different. That's kind of fun. Okay. Spidey's looking pretty good. All right, so now I'm gonna take my darker pencil, my heavier lead, 6B. So I'm gonna come in, and I'm gonna do the webs with the 6B here. I really want those to pop. There you go, see that? Take those web lines all the way down. Okay, everybody with me? Okay, now I'm gonna connect with all of those fun loopy lines, not flower face man lines, but spider web lines all the way around. You're never gonna forget this. You're never gonna forget flower face man. Every time you draw Spider-Man, you're like, I'm gonna do it right. Hope you guys are having fun. By the way, my name is Brian. I hope you guys are enjoying this. And if you like this, let us know. We'll do more of these. I've done this a few times at different live events, conventions, parks, things like that. We've had some superhero celebrations. Did it at D23 Expo last year. We taught how to draw Spider-Man. Cool. Okay. So now I like a kind of a hard outline around Spidey. So I take that heavier lead. Again, I go underneath his chin. Come all the way around, really define that shape for Spidey. Okay, so we're almost done. We're closing in. And one of the tricks I like to do as well, you know, you're taking something that's two-dimensional and trying to convey the illusion of three dimensions. So I'll actually go just underneath his chin and almost echo his chin line just a bit and color that in. Essentially, it's creating a shadow underneath Spidey's chin. It just helps his chin kind of pop off a little bit, gives you some more of that illusion. These are some collarbone lines, just because it's bugging me that I don't see those collarbone lines. Okay. All right, so we're pretty close. Maybe some little lines on his lenses there. You know, and you can go in and do more shading if you want. You know, sometimes I'll do some fun stuff around his mask. If his mask is torn, you can do all kinds of fun things. But one of the great things about Spider-Man as well is his power set, which, you know, he has many. He can crawl on walls. He has the proportional strength of a spider. But one of his hallmarks is his spider sense, and you know, conveying that in a two-dimensional medium like comics can be tough. And that's another thing you can look at when you pick up the comic books, is see the different ways people convey the spider sense. So I kind of do it like these electricity lines. You can do this however you want, but like I do these just kind of seemingly rando lines coming off of Spidey's head. Like, oh my gosh, he's thought of something crazy. He senses trouble in Queens or in Manhattan or wherever he is traveling to that week. All right, and then I'll just kind of echo that spider sense line, just double it up. Again, you can do this. There's a million different ways to do the spider sense. Hopefully you guys are having fun. That's the whole point of this. Drawing is supposed to be fun. Just making up stuff, drawing some of your favorite characters, make up your own characters. I've been doing this kind of thing my whole life. I can't remember not doing this. So if you're young, keep it up. If you're old, also keep it up. So basically everybody keep it up is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so there we go. We have our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's got a spider sense going. Now, in order to really make it yours, you got to finally put your name on it. And I'm going to put my name right here, Brian Crosby. And that means it's mine, right? And there you go. You have it, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So again, I hope you guys had fun doing this. Let us know what characters you'd like to draw, and we'll do some other tutorials for you guys. Until then, enjoy drawing, and again, make mind Marvel.